What are the most important keywords of new wave to you?
When it comes to entrepreneurial space companies, the most interesting thing for me is everyone is fascinated with space. We've been fascinated for decades. Since Apollo, everyone gets so excited. But it's always been this thing that is inaccessible for most people. It's something that only the best of the best military pilots, something get to be involved with. Rocket science, it's so difficult, don't even try. What's so interesting to me now is the increased access to space. So SpaceX brought the cost down and enabled all these new entrepreneurs to come in to the market for the first time. We never saw any new entrants into space for that whole period. Now we see almost 500 companies, right, all doing interesting things. And people now are able to invest in those companies. And so we're seeing not only new companies and people founding businesses that can now participate in space, but now investors are beginning to participate there. Some of these companies are going, we've just seen some of them going public, and so public investors can put in smaller amounts of money and get involved there. Human spaceflight companies, we've got 4 new companies are supposed to be coming online and taking humans to suborbital space or to the space station either later this year or early next year. And so people can buy a seat, and it's still quite expensive, and but that price will come down, similarly to how it happened in the airline industry. It was only celebrities and very wealthy people that were flying initially. For actually the first few decades, that was all there was, until they made a coach class, and then all of a sudden all of us began to fly. The same thing is happening in space. Now people are going up for the first time. They're going to be going up in Virgin and Blue Origin's spaceship, SpaceX and Boeing. It's very exciting because who knows, you're going to go out to a party and you're going to bump into somebody that's just gone to space, right? I mean, all of a sudden, all of these different ways for, us regular people to participate in something that is so exciting for us.
And next question is, space industry is still considered as high risk and high return investment area. And then how do you make decision to invest?
So this is a common misconception, I think.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I actually argue that it's less risky. So, for example, a lot of general venture capital investments go into companies that are focused on generating users, getting users onto their platform that they will sometime, monetize these customers at some point in the future. And they're seeing all this growth, and they're very excited about the growth in the user base, and we'll figure out how we're going to make money on it later. With space companies, most of the time, by the time that we talk to them, even in the first check-in, there's so much government funding that's available that the best entrepreneurs are going out and finding these small contracts, 50,000, 100,000, something, to basically rally a team around, maybe develop a crude prototype, minimum viable product, and go out and start to have some customer conversations. So actually, by the time that we invest, even the first check, sometimes they already have a prototype, and sometimes they already have good customer traction. So that's one thing. But then on the flip side, I mean, I'd much rather be invested in a space company. They generate revenue much earlier than these other companies, as I mentioned. And a lot of them, we don't invest in just hardware, but half of our portfolio is hardware versus software companies. And in a downturn, a lot of these companies are falling back on real revenue, real assets. And so that actually minimizes risk quite a bit. Another common misconception is people always think that it takes a lot of capital to build a space company. I don't think that that's necessarily true either. If you look at the data, at seed and Series A, Series B, the companies are all raising similar sized rounds, 2 million, 10 million, 25, 30 million. I mean, and they're, the interesting thing about space is it's all relatively new, and most people have these misconceptions. So you can actually get in at a discount because there's less competition for these deals at the moment, especially earlier on where there's not as much competition for these deals. There's not as many investors that have access to them or that understand them. And so that's why we really have a unique advantage, because we're looking at these companies, we're able to find them early, invest with conviction, get them for a lower price, and then by the time they get to their Series B round and they launch their satellite or whatever it is, it reduces the risk for the other investors, the larger and more mainstream general investors. They come in and they all start competing for that deal and the price shoots up and everyone's happy. Yeah.
If you have unlimited resources, capital, what did you invest in the special sector of space industry?
Well, so the best thing to do probably would be to find somebody that you understands the sector really well and try to find a diversification option through them. So we offer that, and I'm sure that there's other options available as well. Probably not as good, but you can invest in diversification options through us, for example, that would tap into our entire portfolio. And would give you broad exposure to everything that we invest in, from launch to satellites, and into the new markets as well. But to answer your question, directly, if you wanted to pick a good opportunity for now, in my talk just now, I was talking about our previous fund had more exposure in launch and small launch vehicles. But now, I wouldn't be investing really in them. There's too many competitors, there's a lot of capital already, and it's one of these markets where the first people in are going to have a significant advantage. So our new fund doesn't have a lot of launch exposure. We are investing really heavily in the satellite value chain. So it's not necessarily just the hardware. We are investing in that, and that's quite exciting. New sensors, gathering new data, but also in the platforms and the analytics that come off of it. But also, there's a lot of really interesting opportunities in lunar transportation. I'm very excited about right now. There's a lot of commercial dollars going there and NASA dollars as well. And also space situational awareness. So basically, one of our portfolio companies has a technology that's able to do much better than any of the other existing solutions are able to track 2-centimeter objects in space. This is good for debris and understanding where the garbage is in space, but it's also important for the people who are operating in space and trying to maintain a clean highway or a clean orbit in space so that they can operate, so that they can price insurance products and have a robust economy in space.
Thank you. Last question is, there are huge traditional companies like Airbus or Boeing, and on the other side there are small startups. What would be the good strategy for the small startups to compete with the large companies like Boeing or Airbus? So
I've heard it described, the way that resonates the best with me is that you've got the big dinosaur there, imagine Brontosaurus, one of the really long ones with a long neck, and then that's the incumbents, the large companies they're talking about. And then the new companies are the mammals. Yes. And so the mammal runs up the neck, bonks it on the head with a stick, and then runs away. And by the time the dinosaur has turned its neck to see what had happened, they're already off doing something else.
Okay. So we should be fast. Be fast. Okay. Thank you very much for your time. We have a small gift for you. This is